Hello everyone, my name is David Osadjan. I'm a Senior Project Manager from Astardi Platt. We're an environmental consulting company located in Elmhurst, Illinois. Today's topic is talking about the GHS, the globally harmonized system for the classification and labeling of chemicals. The GHS system, as the slide here shows, standardizes the classification and labeling of chemicals worldwide. The purpose is to protect the workers and provide a standardized system of labeling chemicals and labeling materials in order to protect the workers and keep everyone safe in the workplace. It also eases the import and export of goods throughout the world. GHS is comprised of several different components. As the slide here shows, it's comprised of pictograms. It is comprised of label requirements. And in the United States, we're going to remove the MSDS, and in its place, the new safety data sheet will take its place. The hazard classification, it changed a few definitions, which doesn't affect most people. And lastly, it requires uniformity within each country. What I mean by that is, within the United States, all safety data sheets are required to be formatted exactly the same. Whereas in Canada, they're going to be formatted all the same for Canadian firms. And in China, they'll be formatted for all the different Chinese companies. Now first I want to talk about the pictograms. There's 9 different pictograms that are used in the GHS format. As the slide here shows, the first 4 I've got here, the first one is the health hazard. Health hazards are carcinogens, materials that cause cancer, such as asbestos or silica. It also causes mutagens, reproductive toxicity, and compounds like that. The second one is the flame. The flame, if you're familiar with DOT standards, they're very similar to the DOT label. It shows the DOT diamond. It indicates anything flammable or combustible, anything that will catch on fire, any self-heating, any pyrophoric materials. Third one down here is that of gas cylinders. The gas cylinder applies to anything, any kind of compressed gases, be it aerosol cans, compressed gas cylinders, and so on. Doesn't matter if they're flammable, inflammable, or toxic gases. The fourth one on the slide here indicates the flame over circle. Flame over circle is the oxidizer symbol. It also applies to organic peroxide materials. The next set of GHS pictograms is that of corrosive. The corrosive one is anything that causes corrosion to the skin or burns steel or other metal objects. Strong acids, strong bases are going to get this symbol. The one over here, exclamation mark, is also related to the one in the lower left, the toxic symbol. The exclamation mark is used for anything of low toxicity or low poisonousness. The one down here, toxicity, is used for anything of extreme toxicity, anything that is extremely hazardous, extremely toxic, much more likely to kill or injure you. That's basically the difference between the two. The one in the lower right then, exploding bomb, that's used for anything that's an explosive material, anything that's also considered highly reactive, including materials, again, organic peroxides. The 9th and final pictogram, indicated right here, is that for the environment. OSHA does not consider this one mandatory as of yet. That may change in the future, but as of this day, the environment pictogram is not required. Next, I want to move on to the GHS label requirements. Basically, the GHS label is going to format a little bit differently than what we have in the past. Manufacturers are used to having a standardized label that always lists, the company name, the company address, the company phone number. It also lists the name of the product and any other identifying comments on there. The GHS label, as this slide indicates, has several different things. First, of course, we have a product identifier, in this case, N-propyl alcohol. The second one is that of signal word. OSHA for the United States says we have 2 possible different signal words. We have danger or we have warning. Danger is anything listed, any kind of extreme hazard, whereas warning is anything of a lesser hazard. So it's 50-50. The third different item on the GHS label is that for hazard statements. Hazard statements are anything that's considered hazardous information that must be provided to the user. This information is provided on the new safety data sheet. The follow-up to that one is the precautionary statements, which is number 4. Precautionary statements are, again, statements used to protect the worker, provide them information in order to tell them avoid contact with heat, or avoid contact with water, or keep away from electrical objects, keep away from spark-producing objects, and so on. The 5th comment on the label is that of the supplier information. Supplier information, of course, is the name of the manufacturer, their address, their phone number, all the contact information. And the 6th and final piece of information on the GHS label is that of the pictograms itself, as it shows here on the right side of the label. As you can see, the pictograms are bordered in red. That is an OSHA requirement. It is mandatory. Your labels and your safety data sheets must have color versions of the pictograms and have to have a red border around it. There's no size restriction per se as of yet for OSHA. The labels can be any size. The font in the labels needs to correspond to the size of the label, meaning you don't want to have some really massive word on the label. Likewise, you don't have a bunch of tiny print or tiny font on the label. You want everything to make sure it matches, make sure it appears size-wise the same. All right. In addition to the label, in addition to the pictograms, the third and final change that's part of the new GHS format is that of the safety data sheet. In the past, we've always relied on the material safety data sheet, the MSDS. The MSDS was going to be going away in a few years, and its replacement will be the new safety data sheet. As I've indicated on the slide here, you've got 16 different sections. Section 1 is that provides the identification, provides the product identifier, the manufacturer, the distributor name, their address, their phone number, and so on. Section 2 includes the identification for all hazards, including the chemical hazards, any required label elements. Section 2 is where you're going to see the pictograms. Section 3 is that of composition information on ingredients, includes information on the chemical ingredients, trade secret claims, and so on. Section 4 is first aid measures, including important information about symptoms, effects on the people, be it acute symptoms, chronic symptoms, and so on. Section 5 is that of firefighting measures. This lists suitable extinguishing techniques, equipment, chemical hazards, and the like. Section 6 is that of accidental release measures. Again, lists emergency procedures, protective equipment, proper methods of containment and cleanup. Section 7 is that of handling and storage. This lists the precaution for safe handling and storage, including any chemical incompatibilities and any situations or storage situations that you need to avoid. Section 8 is that of exposure controls and personal protection. This would list OSHA's permissible exposure limits, or PEL. It may list NIOSH's threshold limit value, the TLV. It's also going to list any appropriate engineering controls or personal protective equipment controls. Section 9 is that of physical and chemical properties. This lists the chemicals' characteristics, such as the pH, the flash point, the boiling point, the vapor pressure, and so on. Section 10 is that of stability and reactivity. This lists the chemical stability and possibility of any possible hazardous reactions. Section 11 is toxicological information, includes any routes of entry, such as inhalation, ingestion, absorption through the skin. You notice Section 12, 13, 14, and 15 are not quite as bold as the other ones. The reason for that is the United States OSHA does not require that these sections be included in the new safety data sheet. Therefore, they're not mandatory. However, all safety data sheets will have to have a placeholder for these 4 sections, meaning you'll have information to be posted. It may just be listed as not applicable or does not apply or wording to that effect. However, you still have to address the fact that there are 4 other sections. Other agencies, such as the US EPA or the Homeland Security, may require this information to be posted. And if that's the case, that information will be filled in on the new safety data sheet because it complies with their requirements rather than the OSHA requirements. So again, Section 12, ecological information, Section 13, disposal considerations, Section 14, transport information, and Section 15, regulatory information. Section 16, the final one, is that of the other information. This is the catch-all, the miscellaneous area, where any other remaining information that the supplier or the vendor wants to include on the safety data sheet will be included. What's important to note on the new safety data sheet, this order is mandatory. There's no exceptions. Everybody has to follow the same order, sections 1 through 16, on their new safety data sheet. All right, as this slide indicates, we've got some of the effective dates. Effective December 1st, 2013, this year, several months from now, all employers in the United States are required to train all of their employees on the new label elements, the new safety data sheets, including the pictograms, what I've gone through here today. Then on June 1st, 2015, you have to compliance with all modified provisions of the final rule. At that point, you have to begin using the new safety data sheet. MSDSs will no longer be considered valid for reference material in the U.S. workplace. December 1st, 2015, distributors should not ship containers unless it's labeled with the GHS compliant label. And the last one, June 1st, 2016, is the final deadline to update any workplace labeling and hazard communication program. Meaning if you have a written hazard communication program in your facility, everything at that point has to be updated to include all of the new GHS requirements. And this concludes my presentation on the GHS, the Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals. I want to thank you for attending this training, and I hope if you have any further questions, feel free to contact me at Mastardi Platt on the contact information included on this slide. Thank you.